All right, we're back at the podcast studio talking about our book review. I'm here with my buddy Aaron Levine. We've done a couple of these now. This is our third book review, and Aaron suggested Thinking in Bets as the next book for our review. It's a little bit different than other ones we've read, but very interesting read.
I mean, what a great read. Annie's she's a good author. And listen, we say read, but we mean Audible.
We're both Audible. Audible and also go hand in hand.
You know, I did not buy this book hard copy, although I think I should, because I think as I was doing more research about it online, she has charts, graphs. It's always those visual aids that certainly help us out with it. But, you know, our first or one of our other book reviews was Your Next 5 Moves by Patrick Bet-David, right? Patrick Bet-David. It was just great, really strategic book about helping you grow in business. On the cover of that book was chess pieces, right? The book we're reading right now, the book that we're talking about, Thinking in Bets by Annie Duke, is written by a professional poker player who talks more about business being like poker than chess.
Yeah, definitely.
So kind of cool to
see
the difference. And everybody talks about, you know, chess not checkers is like a famous quote. You know, whoever invented that quote, whatever it is, who cares? But, you know, now we're like poker. Totally different.
It makes a lot of sense.
Makes so much sense.
When you start thinking about it, you know, and again, while listening to the book, she talks about like in a chess match, if you undo those pieces, you can see where the move went wrong,
right?
And you know where that Excel skill was. But in business, like in poker, you could have the best hand and you can lose,
and you can still lose, right? But you're right, that chess game, and I've always wanted to become a better chess player. Chess playing to me is still strategy, like business. And like anything else, poker involves strategy too. So there's still strategy in playing your pieces, but it talks about the chessboard is wide open. There's no secrets.
There's no variables. And there's
no variables, right? So it talks about chess being a mathematical equation where poker involves probabilities. And by the way, if we go to Atlantic City, I'm a terrible poker player.
Okay, so it's not.
So I don't know if it means I'm a bad business person too.
Either that or you know more of the probability in your business.
You know, I'd rather play blackjack or throw dice. So maybe I want to get lucky more than worry about probabilities and strategy. I don't know. But I don't know if I necessarily do that in my business, because if I was just hoping to get lucky in business, I wouldn't be here 16 years later, right? And continuing to grow. So maybe we think about it differently when it comes to business. And then when it's playing dice or cards, I'm there for luck and fun, because there's an entertainment value.
You always get a couple cocktails and you're enjoying yourself. You know, I like playing roulette when I go there.
Have you done a podcast with cocktails yet? Like, have you done the progressively drinking throughout the show?
No, but we could do that for the next book. If we get a good book that's like a fun book that we don't have to use our brains on, then we can drink during that.
Do we do the mixology book and just start making cocktails as we're going?
I don't see why we couldn't. Andrew, you have any objection? Andrew said no problem.
We can I'm sure we can get a sponsor for that one too, and a driver, and be all good. We can get on the trolley and do it while we're in motion.
I got the driving taken care of. You work on the alcohol sponsor. I got the driving done.
So good. We'll have a blast. But anyway, so in the book, Thinking in Bets talks about probability of poker. We don't care about the probability of card hands, but it's that uncertainty which is super intriguing to me. Is that there's always uncertainty in every decision. We think we're selling something good, right? We're like, I'm going to sell this account. Life is good. All of a sudden at the 1 yard line, they tell you no. That can happen.
Happens every day.
Right?
Somebody loses because if you win, someone else is losing, because a lot of times people aren't just meeting one guy.
Right.
They're meeting 2 or 3 professionals to get a proposal, to get an estimate, to get a quotation.
Right.
And so 2 guys are losing if 3 people are bidding on the job.
Yeah, no, absolutely, right? So we can all think we've done a great job, but there's still an outcome that somebody will lose or nothing happens at all. And everybody winds up losing. And we can blame it on different factors, right? I think the book talks about we'll blame external factors if we lose.
Yeah.
And we'll praise
ourselves on the back.
pat ourselves on the back if we win. We won because we did great, not because we got a little lucky.
But it's so true, like when you think about that. And again, I think the more that you objective, and
Right.
and they talk about that in the book, like the more objectively you look at decisions, the better it is. Like
Right.
because then you take out the emotion out of it.
Right.
And again, when they were talking about a couple of things, like they're talking about in a poker hand, like you can make 20 decisions within each hand of poker. Like
Right.
in every hour you're doing 30 hands of poker. Like that's a lot of decision making.
And you don't know if the guy on the other side of the table is bluffing.
Exactly.
Right. And we've had that too. So we'll be working on a proposal and we start to pick up the tells of prospects as we're working with them. And, I'll have somebody tell me like, oh, I'm paying X. And I'm like, there's no freaking way
You're paying X.
they're paying X. They're trying to bluff me to get X minus 1.
Yeah.
Right. But I already know that, but I don't want to call I don't want to call them out on it, but we want to be able to see that. But that's something that takes time, effort, and energy and experience to be able to understand that when they say X, X doesn't really exist. It's just a bluff.
Yeah.
Right. Or if somebody puts their cards on the table, then you can really see what's going on and say, all you have to do is beat this hand to win. Like that works too. We'll play that game.
Yeah, we'll play
and
that
we'll
hand.
try to beat that. And if we can't beat that hand, that's okay. We'll walk away and we're okay.
In our world, both of our worlds, there's times where I wish people were just honest and said, here's the hand, because there's times where you'll give them a different product, but if you knew really what the outcome was or what the desired results were or what someone else was proposing, you would give a different product.
Right. So it's right. So, I mean, that's such a great point, right? But we don't always uncover the pain points appropriately. We try to, but we may not guess correctly, or we may not get that right information or all the information, or there may be a piece that gets held back or changed or manipulated. So, there's too many unknowns in a lot of it, but it comes down to, acknowledging the uncertainty, right? I have that in my notes is she talks about acknowledging the I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay.
That's okay.
Because we don't have all of it.
But we weren't
I think
trained
it's
to
huge.
do that. Like when we were kids, like if you go to school, and she said it, like when you're in school, like if you say to somebody, if you said to a teacher, I don't know, like in our world today, that's a good answer. Like, but when you were in high school, college, like that's a really bad answer.
Really bad answer.
But like, there's so much more that you want to uncover and you want to go through and to get them the best answer and to get that the best possible.
Right. And she talks about like decision making, right? Did you make a good decision that had a bad outcome, or was it a bad decision that had a good outcome? And we were just talking about, drinking and trolleying, but she uses the example of drinking and driving. You got home safe. You made a bad decision with a good outcome. You got lucky. Do you want to do it again? No.
But the only time you think it's a good decision is when you're drinking again.
It's when you're drinking again.
But even in that Seahawks example of the pass on the 1 yard line and the interception, again, if you look at the numbers and the stats, there was a 1% chance of failure.
Right.
But meanwhile, he got blasted the next morning.
I mean, thank God for social media, right? Everybody's an armchair quarterback. Like, I watch golf. I follow golfers. If a golfer has a bad day, a professional golfer, they get harassed to the next level. You suck. You should quit. Plus even worse things get posted on the internet because of having one bad day. They didn't make bad decisions. They just had bad outcomes for the day.
And what's crazy is everybody has a bad day. But meanwhile, these guys are under the light so far. Like
we could use some internet trolls. So let's.
Everybody has a bad day from time to time, and meanwhile, like these poor guys can't have a bad day.
They can't have a bad day when you're in the public. When you're a public image, you can't have a bad day. You're not allowed to.
No,
because the internet doesn't allow that to happen. But you have to be strong-minded and strong-willed to be able to do that. But making good decisions is important because you want good results, and more often than not, making good decisions is going to get you the proper result. Mm-hmm. And she talks about analyzing your decision-making process more than the outcome. Right? Totally. She used the term is called resulting. So it's going after the decision-making to get the result, but not relying on the result saying that things were good going into it, right? If you have sound decision processes, then you will ultimately get results, but you may not always get the win result, and then you're going to blame everything else if you get the lose result based on your decision making. So it's kind of interesting to see that.
But that's a great way to think about it, because not every result's going to go your way.
Right.
And if you think about, did you make good decision? A good decision. It was the theory behind it. Good. You're in a good place versus thinking that one bad outcome was
Right.
the problem.
So what do you think you could implement from this book for your team as they're all sitting behind this camera listening to us? What?
I don't actually think they're listening to us. I think they're zoned in on their work. And I know that Ariel and Dina wouldn't miss a beat of social media to listen to this. But they probably downloaded the book so that they can get ahead of it now. I think that analyzing decisions and the resulting is a great way for them to think, because again, there's going to be times where something doesn't go away. We lose a customer, or we write something that the customer doesn't like, or we design something that
Right.
but well, how could we think about the questions and that feedback loop to help us make better decisions going forward?
Right.
And again, it's just because the result wasn't the outcome maybe we would desired. Well, did we make good sound decisions
Right.
along the way to get there?
So it's funny. The feedback loop is a good one. That's a good piece of this book too, is going back to the decision-making process, right? It talks about engaging mental time travel, right? And going back and looking at the decision, but never really talking about the result again, because the decision can cause different results next time.
Totally.
Do
you ever think about, like, if you didn't get a client, like if I meet somebody and I thought we had a good conversation, or we thought we could help them, like, and we didn't get the job, like, I think about, like, what did I say? Did I say like where did we maybe go off? I remember one time years ago when I first was getting started, I remember the guy was like amped up. It was a guy in New York. He wanted me to come out. I happened to be going out for another meeting. I said to the guy, I'll meet you. And he was so excited. And as the conversation's going on, he goes like this and sits back in his chair, but he crossed his arms, and I said, what I just said, in my head, I said, what I just said he didn't like.
Right.
And then, I kind of pulled us back, and I undid that comment. It was talking about pay-per-click advertising. I can remember it like it was yesterday. Right. And the budget was higher than where he thought he should be spending in pay-per-click advertising. And pay-per-click advertising is something that you could charge, you could spend a few hundred to hundreds of thousands,
right?
And depending on how many leads you're looking for. So as I saw him go like that, I was like, all right, well, we got to change this conversation. So again, if I was thinking about that
right.
in the resulting, like the result wasn't where I wanted to go, but if he took it a different way, the outcome would have been totally different.
The outcome would have been different, right? Because you didn't have that card on the table because you were still getting more information.
Yeah.
Right. So still looking at it. But again, it's like you're going back in time and looking at, how you went about that. And we've all had those conversations. And then, this one is interesting right here, the 10-10-10 rule, the Ulysses Pact, right? Mm-hmm. How will this decision feel in 10 minutes, 10 months, and 10 years?
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, and that's like the lens of where it is.
That's really like looking yourself in the mirror about your decision making and about how you went about things. And, listen, I haven't made they're not all good decisions. I've made a lot of bad decisions, and I will still make a lot of bad decisions, and I will take things carelessly sometimes, and I will over prepare, which will hinder me sometimes. Right? It's really about just being able to judge the character of the people that you're meeting with, which goes more into the psychology of business than it does actually knowing your business, right? There's that component of it, is winning the psychological game of it and using the right terminology. You're talking about spending money on pay-per-click. No, we're not spending it. We're investing it.
We're investing it.
Right?
I think that the investment is the right word in a lot of cases in business,
right.
for what I do, for what you do. Because, again, if you don't have the right marketing plan, you're not going to get the desired revenue or cash flow goals, right? If you're not protected and someone's in your blind spot and, causing havoc to their business,
right.
Like, it might not happen tomorrow. It might not happen next week. I was talking to a client the other day, and he has terrible email. Like, it's like pop mail. Like, no one's used pop mail for years. And I said to him, I would really change this, because he's like, I send wires. I said, I would change this tomorrow.
Right.
I said, and he's like, well, I haven't had a problem since. I haven't had a problem yet. I said, it's like breaking into your house. Like,
Right. I haven't had a problem yet. I don't
need
an
alarm. If you leave your doors open and you don't have an alarm, like, at some point something might happen.
Right.
But it's very interesting how people think and value what they value. They have no problem going to a high-end steakhouse and dropping X amount of dollars. But meanwhile, like the $50 it's going to cost you a month, you don't want to do it.
We get that all the time. I haven't had a claim in 30 years. I don't think I need this insurance anymore. All right, well, what about next year? is next year your year, and we talk about insurance the same way as an investment, right? Because you're investing in the ability to restore yourself should a disaster happen, right? That's all you're doing. So it's like we can use the word investment in there. And if you talk to, we have a great financial advisor we did some podcasting with, John Smallwood, used this great analogy, and I think I've used this on 4 podcasts already. It talks about if you have $10 million in the bank and you spend 5 of it to buy a house, right? Are you going to insure the house to make sure if the house burns down, you still have a net worth of $10 million? Or are you just going to keep your net worth of $5 million and not worry about the $5 million that you spent on a home, right?
Do you shake your head every day? Because I do.
All the time. But we get people like, I paid off my mortgage. I don't need insurance anymore. You know, what are you going to do when your house burns down? Do you want to spend the money in the bank to rebuild your house?
To
Is
save
that
a
what
few
happens?
$1,000s in
To save a
premium.
couple $1,000s a year? That couple thousand is protecting you for millions of dollars on multiple sides of the equation, not just on the property side, but on the liability side. And there's so many factors to it. You know, I could go all day on different scenarios of it, but I love you're investing in your protection. You're investing in your asset protection. So it's the same way. The investment to protect your assets is X, right? You know, that's probably in a different book somewhere because I don't think it was here. This one is about decision-making process and a little bit about
But it
game
all
theory.
comes
and
back to play, like how that happens. Like, and again, I think when you look at this, you have to think about what that decision-making tree looks like. If you know, again, not looking at always the outcome. I think the outcome kind of can turn us a little bit. Also interesting, and not to get into a political conversation, when she started talking about like the facts and about the political, like and getting people to change their point of views.
Right. That's funny. It's really like, can you see both sides of it, and can you defend the other side? You know, there's so many different ways to think about that on that side, and every decision could have multiple outcomes. And she talks about using decision-making pods, right? So, you know, that's kind of like having a mini board of directors in a way, of being able to reach out to people and say, hey, I did this, and this, and get that critical feedback of how your process went. Doesn't have to be on every decision, but it's like, here's what my decision making was. Give me the true feedback, because if I give myself feedback on my decision making, I did a good job.
Yeah, of course.
You may say, Aaron, you missed this. Why didn't you could have done this better? Like, that's something that's pretty cool. You just gotta, you know, that would be one to figure out how to put into play and create a small little contingency, a small little group to be able to go through certain decision-making processes and, you know, and justify and verify and validify the outcomes based on decision-making and kind of figure that out. Because I think we could all learn a lot from each other if we took those processes and put them out on paper, not necessarily for our team members to evaluate those, because they're going to give us, you know, confirmation bias.
What you want to hear.
You know, when you sign their paychecks, they're going to tell you what you want to hear.
Jenna always tells me when I'm wrong, though. I'll be honest. Like,
That's good.
She has no problem saying, Tom, that's not right. Tony, also on my team, has no problem saying, Tom, you're wrong. So I don't know. I just have the people that are happy.
And I have a saying. I say this all the time in the office. A lot of times to Josh, I'm like, prove me wrong.
Yeah.
I want you to prove me wrong. If I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong and prove that I'm wrong, and that's okay. So I can learn from it and we can do better next time. So I always want people to prove me wrong.
I'm actually happy that they feel comfortable enough to tell me I'm wrong.
They have to. It's so. I think it's so important to be able to know that you're wrong, because wrong is not a. It's not a big deal. It's okay to be wrong.
And again, it's a different point of view, and I like that you kind of think about it, and you're like, all right, well, that does make some sense, and might not give them the satisfaction of the win, but they'll know that me saying, yeah, that makes some sense. That's the win.
We've made a lot of mistakes over the years.
Oh,
This is a good quote, one of the quotes that I pulled. It says, what makes a great decision is not that it has a great outcome. A great decision is the result of a good process, and that process must include an attempt to accurately represent our own state of knowledge. The state of knowledge, in turn, is some variation of I'm not sure. Right? Kind of a cool.
Yeah.
Talks about that decision-making process and how we go about it, and, you know, that truth-seeking piece of it. And
more people need to think like this, because everybody wants to try to have the right answer right away, all the time. But there's a lot of times where I don't think it's bad when one of our guys goes back and says, "Let me get back to you. I want to do a little more research on this. I want to find out a little bit more for you," because to me that means that they care enough.
Right.
Like if I could just spew out, blah, blah, you should do this, blah, blah. But if I say, "Look, let me just think about this. Let me take a look." Oh, I had a woman here the other day, and she's like, "Well, can you give me a price right now?" I said, "No." I said, "I can't." I said, first, I don't really want the job, but secondly, I was like, I said I can't because
Right.
like I said, I gotta look at the numbers. I can give you a price right now, but it was a pay per click kind of opportunity, and I said I gotta think about what this
Right.
looks like. And she's like, "Am I weird? No, you're not weird. It's just I don't have the answer right this second." So it's just interesting how people want but that's how bad decisions get made.
That's a bad decision making process. If you were able to just bend over, and sometimes and I did that for a prospect today who's putting a bid on a home down in Point Pleasant, and we had a conversation. I said, look, based on doing this 1,000 times, and I should have taken a note from this book and said the probability of my guess being accurate is 72%, making up a random probability.
But I like how she did that.
Like you could do that. The probability of my accuracy is 70% based on doing this 1,000 times. I could tell you that your homeowner's premium is going to be, somewhere between $4,000 and $5,000. Big range.
Yep.
70% accurate. So if I'm still wrong, I'm still wrong.
And you're allowed to
But
be
it's
wrong
okay.
30% of the time.
But you asked me for something quick so you can bid on a home. I can't go through the process of formalizing this for you because you're not at the stage of being ready for formal quotes.
Sure.
So we can be accurate based on our ability and our knowledge, I think is pretty cool. And this is that quote right here. Just as we are almost never 100% wrong or right, outcomes are almost never 100% due to luck or skill.
Mm-hmm.
So you need a combination of luck, skill, wrong, right, all the things that go into it. So all in all, I think this was like a really enjoyable book.
This is a good read.
And I think I got to go back and read it again. I think it's something valuable. There's a lot of value in here. And I think, my team could certainly get some value out of this. And
All right,
You
everybody at
never know.
Wingman's got to read it. Although Jenna didn't read the last book I gave her.
uh-oh.
I thought you said you didn't finish it. Oh, you did? Ooh, look at you.
All right, Caitlin and Jenna, you guys are on the cameras next time.
I think Caitlin and Jenna should have a book review.
They
Want to come for the drinking and get the ride home.
You got to learn about decision-making theory before you get to do the boozy one. I think you gotta do one first. I think it'll be worthwhile.
So this was great, and another good book review, and we got probably one before the end of the year, and we'll take one into the beginning of the new year.
That sounds good. I can't wait. Looking forward to it. Thanks again, Tom.
Thank you. Great to have you on.